Hey there folks, how are we getting on? So we have patch notes for Burning Springs now that it's up on the PTS, and there are a few additional details in here that are pretty cool to have a look at over and above what I saw a couple of weeks ago. And I've also got a few bits of extra commentary to add, given that last night we live streamed a first look around the new region. If you do want to check out that live stream, I will link it somewhere around, probably up here somewhere. Obviously, spoilers will abound. Speaking of, there'll be a couple of light spoilers in this video as well, so if that is an issue for you, consider yourself forewarned. Nothing like horrifically story breaking or anything, but there will be a few pieces of information you may or may not want to avoid, depending on how good you are at dodging that sort of thing. So there's your little heads up anyway. Yeah, so Burning Springs, it's on the test server. It is cool, to be honest, so far. Not literally, in that it's kind of a desert, but anyway. I'm enjoying exploring it. It's got this kind of... It feels like exploring a single-player Fallout used to do, if that makes sense, when you're wandering around the new area. Obviously, that will change somewhat once you've discovered all the locations and you're just bouncing around via fast travel, but it's definitely got some of that element to it. The location designs are really cool. Check out my Instagram if you want to see some of the pictures I took, because, yeah, very impressed. And yeah, my first impression is pretty cool. We're going to jump back in again later today as well and have a bit more of a poke around and look at some of the new gameplay elements a bit more, rather than the exploring and story stuff. So, although there'll probably be a bit of that too, obviously. Yeah, really cool anyway. So let's have a look at these patch notes and go through some of the details, because there are a little bit of extra information, a little bit of foreshadowing about more updates to come, and also a couple of gameplay changes, although nothing humongous. So let's crack on, shall we? So, inside the vault, Burning Springs public test server released notes. So obviously this is PTS day, well, 2 now will be on. So very, very early days. Things will be subject to change. Hopefully not too massively, but there will be little bits here and there. A very, very cool front gate to a cool and intimidating location. So one of the issues that's currently on the PTS is that locations don't always go onto your map properly when you discover them. The discovery doesn't always work the way it's supposed to. Hopefully they'll fine-tune that across the PTS. This is what the PTS is for, anyway. I mention it because this is one of the locations that I did discover and it didn't go on my map. Anyway, a new region of the map is opening for those with enough grit to cross the Point Pleasant Bridge. You'll be travelling westward towards Burning Springs, taking place in rural Ohio. Well, is it really rural anymore when it's a desert? It feels like the wrong word. So, largest map expansion to Fallout 76 and is available on the PTS. Yeah, largest map expansion, there are 2 map expansions, including this one. This is the bigger of the 2. Prepare to become one of the meanest bounty hunters around, as Burning Springs update introduces bounty hunting to Fallout 76. A major piece of new content here to give you the opportunity to find and eliminate some of the area's largest threats. We're extremely excited to share that the Ghoul from the Fallout TV show, yeah, that Ghoul, on Amazon Prime will be joining us in Burning Springs, voiced by Walton Goggins himself. That'd be the actor who plays him in the show. And the Ghoul will be your guide to all things bounty hunting. So yeah, very cool. He is in the game. It's some 200 years earlier, so etc, but it's very, very cool. Right, so the main questline for Burning Springs is just the start of your story in this new region, planned as the beginning chapter for a story that spans multiple updates. This quest works as an introduction to the characters you'll end up spending more time with down the line. The new questline to complete 2 new public events and the introduction to bounty hunting, plus a load of additional bits and pieces, including new fish and stuff. Burning Springs is largest update since Wastelanders back in 2020. I'm on the fence about entirely the definition of largest since Wastelanders. It's probably a strong contender for it, though. There's maybe a couple of other bits and pieces that could arguably be considered similarly large, but in a different kind of a way. Largest area, sure. Anyway, that's nitpicky because it's big and it's a pretty impressive update, so yeah, I wouldn't nitpick over that, really. Anyway, how to participate in the PTS. Same as always. If you own 76 on PC via Steam, then you will already have access to the PTS. You just have to download it. Yeah, it's only available via Steam on PC, unfortunately. That's the way it goes. But, yeah, there you go. PTS is available. So, the new region to explore, Burning Springs. Region of southeastern Ohio, rocked not only by nuclear destruction, but by the environmental poisoning from the local abraxodine chemical plant. The area is now a desolate and barren wasteland with poisonous water and a dust storm coating everything in a toxin known as rust. There's a new weather type, actually, sandstorms, which is quite interesting. I think they might run a bit longer than they're meant to. They don't seem to end in the way they're supposed to, or I would think they're supposed to. I don't really have a lot of frame of reference. But yeah, we ran into one sandstorm last night, and it just didn't seem to end until my game crashed and I had to reload anyway. Actually, to be fair, it wasn't my game at all. It was my computer that was the problem. Can't pin this one on Fallout. So who would ever want to call this hostile land home? Well, the Rust King, that's who. Yeah, here come the spoilers, by the way. A supermutant with just as much brains as brawn, the Rust King is an unrelenting and unforgiving ruler of Burning Springs. He has twisted this land into his cruel kingdom, where the only rule is might makes right. Actually, that's a pretty good description of it being the only rule, because you can absolutely F over his people, and he doesn't care, because his line is, if they were tough enough, then they'd have beaten you instead, and if they didn't, that's on them. So it's a really kind of unpleasant equality to it, shall we say. And it's an interesting way of explaining things. Why he doesn't necessarily hate you on principle for killing his people. Also, you know, it's a raider gang at the end of the day. So, players will cross paths with this monstrous monarch during the new quest line. He'll task the player with proving their worth and braving the wilds of his wasteland. While barren, Burning Springs does still hold pockets of life. Highway Town serves as a pit stop for the last of humanity. Built on a section of elevated highway, the players will be able to rest and resupply here. Highway Town serves as the region's new social hub and a resort for survivors, last resort rather. Speaking of which, the Last Resort Saloon at the end of town also serves up bounty hunt contracts. Once you unlock the location, you'll be able to fast travel directly to the saloon for maximum bounty hunting efficiency. So a couple of points there. I said this earlier on, but we'll say it again. The location design in the new area, Burning Springs, is absolutely brilliant. So much so that I changed my desktop wallpaper today to one of the new locations in Burning Springs because it's so cool. It's a red rocket. Or it was, amongst other things. Anyway. Yeah, I'm really impressed with that. I think it's really cool. As I say, check my Instagram for more details or, you know, the stream and stuff. And more content coming, of course. Beyond that, Highway Town is also a really, really cool location. It is on a broken freeway on a section of overpass. There are I think I came up with like 6 different levels to it across the whole thing, from ground level to the various sort of tiers once you get inside it. It's an internal location, a bit like passing from the Commonwealth into Diamond City is in Fallout 4, and it's separated by load screens in the same way. But you've got vendors, you've got the Last Resort Saloon, which is where the Ghoul hangs out and his contracts are for bounty hunting, and a whole load of other stuff going on around there as well, which we will be coming back to in a second. And yeah, it's a cool place that's just having a wander around and just a look about, because it's an interesting design. As I say, a lot of the location design in this area is really cool, and Highway Town is a good example of somewhere that's cool. It's also worth going outside once you get inside, because there are rooftop areas and stuff as well. So that is quite cool to have a poke around too. Yeah, definitely a fan of the way they have designed most of this new area, at least, or what I've seen so far. I've seen a few people with the odd complaint here and there about it, particularly along the Ohio River edge. I don't have much to say about that. I haven't been down there yet. I think it is really looking for something to moan about, to be honest, on the whole. So, players can wander into Burning Springs by crossing the bridge in Point Pleasant. The quest line can be started by tuning into the Ohio distress signal once you reach level 30. You can explore the area before then, and it will scale to your level as much as anything, but the quest line won't trigger. Speaking of crossing the bridge and the questline, there are apparently a couple of places you can swim across the river. I don't know where they are, but for the most part, you cannot just cross the river at any random point to get into the Ohio Burning Springs region. You need to cross the bridge at Point Pleasant. Some people have issues with that. I don't, personally. The major reason for that is it ties into the quest, and it's the best experience you can have in terms of approaching this new area is to cross the bridge. However, there is a big old but on the end of this. Particularly around launch day for the update, you're going to find everybody's going through this same area, the Point Pleasant Bridge, and then you've got a relatively narrow road that leads into the new area. And there are enemies along there, or there should be. If you're on adventure mode, there is a good chance that, particularly on day 1 or 2, that somebody else will have been there in front of you and cleared out a lot of the enemies. I don't know what the respawns look like on that. I've not been able to check that out and test it out. I went straight for a private server because, well, I wanted to actually be able to see everything. So you might want to bear that in mind. If you're a Fallout first player, I would say the first quest you get in the area is called Buckeye Blues. It's the one you get from the Ohio distress signal via listening to your Pip-Boy. Do that in a private world with nobody else around first, complete that quest, and you will know when you have finished it, believe me. And then maybe jump into adventure mode from there, because that way you won't have the bottleneck effect. That's just my thoughts on it. I don't think there's much of a solution to that that doesn't involve a bottleneck, really, other than not funneling people towards the quest. And the quest really is the best introduction to the region, so yeah. Horses for courses, this swings and roundabouts, things like that, you know. But anyway, that's just my 2 cents on the thing. Otherwise, maybe give it a day or two and then wander through when it's not peak time on the servers, you know, whatever your local area is. Don't do it early evening, that sort of thing, so that you avoid the maximum levels of traffic and you'll have a better chance of, you know, not running into so many people killing the enemies that you might want to encounter yourself. Just food for thought, anyway. With that said, however, let's have a look at bounty hunting. So this is the big shiny new feature. Mosey down to the Last Resort Saloon in Highway Town if you're looking to put your gun to work. The ghoul has set up shop there, providing piles of bounties to plunder. To start a grunt hunt, the lower tier of bounty hunts, pick up one of the posters on the table. Yeah, they're right next to him. There are plenty to go around, and you can repeat this activity to your heart's content. So yeah, you grab one of those, it triggers the event. You might have to find it in your Pip-Boy. I did, but it depends on your settings. Then you'll head down to whatever location the grunt hunt takes place at. There are 20 possible ones scattered around the Burning Springs region. Hunt down the enemy, who will initially be a 1-star, but as you do more grunt hunts, you will get more powerful enemies to take out, progressing to 2- and 3-star enemies, and they'll have some friends nearby as well. And then there is a chance to get, as a reward, a premium bounty poster. So this will come through the rewards. You won't find it on their corpse. It'll be delivered with the caps and consumables and what have you. You get pops up in the middle of the screen. Yeah. So once you've done that, eventually you'll get one of those, and then you can start a headhunt. Now, to do the headhunts, you need to go back to the saloon, and there can only be one headhunt running at a time. So if there's already one, go and join that, do that, and then you get to contribute to both of them, I guess. But if there is not one running at a time, you go to the bounty board, which is right outside the doors of the saloon. It's just on the right on your way in, or before you head in. And you pin up your poster on there, and that triggers the public event that is a headhunt, and then anybody can jump in on it. There are dozens of unique headhunt targets across a handful of locations. Each has a unique loadout and posse protecting them, with varying weird themes to them. Like there might be a gang of clowns, or it might be a gang of musicians, or it might be a gang of grannies, or it might be, you know, you get where we're going with this? It's weird. It's kind of fun. They have some pretty wild and weird skills too. If you've got an itchy trigger finger caps to spare, the ghoul will be happy to part with a premium poster for the right price. So yeah, if you don't want to grind out grunt hunts in order to get premium posters, you can just buy one from the ghoul. He will accept bribes. That said, of course, sooner or later you're going to run out of caps, probably faster than you can earn them, I would guess. So there is a limit to just how much you can accelerate things by buying them. Adventure mode and jump into other people's headhunts is probably the other way to accelerate this. I have kind of mixed feelings on that. I know a lot of people aren't really a fan of that kind of artificial slow down the ability to get into it. On the other hand, it does kind of mean that it'll take us a little bit longer to work our way through getting all the rewards. The best ones are on the headhunts, obviously, as you can imagine. Yeah, I'm kind of okay with it. If we still have something to do by the time Christmas rolls around, that's kind of okay with me. But I do kind of see the point of people who find it a little bit galling to perhaps be restricted in that way. But, you know, the faster you get through it, the faster you claimed all the rewards, the faster the boredom comes back. So, swings and roundabouts, isn't it? Anyway, speaking of loot, bounty hunting is primed to be the premier path, even. That's not the easiest sentence to say. For legendary item hunters, grunt hunt targets will initially appear as 1-star legendaries, and as you complete more, they'll make their way towards 2 and 3 stars. Headhunt targets will always be 3-star legendaries, and flanked by a couple of 2-star posse members. So, yeah, bounty hunting will drop a lot of legendaries. I don't think it's the most efficient way of doing it still. I think your best bet is still just, if you really want to farm legendaries as fast as possible, fire up one of the expeditions in Atlantic City, either tax evasion one, or I think faster is, what's the one, most sensational game, the one at the pier, and just blast through that, and then you'll get half a dozen plus, maybe a bit more, every time you complete it, and you can do that in about 10 minutes. So I think the drop rate is going to be faster for that overall, but this is still an alternative way of doing it if you don't want to do it just as fast as humanly possible. And it's new, and it's fresh, and it's variety, and we can always do with more of that. So, speaking of new legendaries, now Bethesda's devs did mention that there were new mods. Now, I'm not sure, I thought they were talking about scope suppressors, stuff like that affect your weapons for ghouls. However, they may have been speaking about legendary mods, because I don't see any other type of mods listed in the patch notes, and I do see a bunch of legendaries. Some of these also apply directly to ghouls, so perhaps this was in fact what they were referring to, not what I thought they were referring to. Clarity would have been nice, but you know, the proverbial happens. So, new mods coming, new legendary mods coming as part of this update. Obviously subject to change. The numbers attached to them might change during testing or after testing and so on. And they might even change the names of them, but we'll see about that. So, new 1-star or first star might be better. Mods, we have Feral, which is a melee weapon mod, and kills make you more feral. So, a ghoul-specific legendary effect. The one that's useful to ghouls anyway. Gotta be honest with you, it's not very useful, this one. There are better choices for your first star, and it's not that hard to become feral, and if you're going for a melee feral ghoul build, you'll get feral and you'll stay there, having done this myself. It is very easy to get there, it just takes a few minutes of game time for the feral meter to run down, and then you don't take any chems. I did think that maybe this might allow you to take chems and get back to being feral fast, but honestly, the downtime is not sufficient to make it worthwhile to me, and also a feral ghoul melee build is so effective without this that taking extra chems is just not worth it. The damage level is so high on that build, it's ridiculous, it's absurd, so this is really not a worthwhile thing, I don't think. Snipers. This one has caught my eye. I like this potential idea. Part of this number, which might be subject to change, but this applies to ranged weapons, and you gain 120% for now bonus damage to weak points while aiming down sights. So that's headshots and the like. Doesn't apply in VATS because you're not aiming down sights in VATS, but if you are a free aiming player, you know, then that's really cool. The other thing is, this doesn't just apply to single shot bolt action type weapons. This will also work on automatic weapons. So if you want to head through and, you know, go special forces with a submachine gun or an assault rifle to your foe's head, Sniper will give you a massive boost to your damage. So this, depending on where they finally land with the actual number on that, could potentially be quite awesome if you're not using VATS. That's the caveat. So, next two are Adrenal. This applies to both weapons and armor. For weapons, it's 10% damage per kill while on a kill streak, going up to 100%, double damage. And armor, it's 10% damage resistance while on a kill streak, up to 100. So, yeah, okay. Not quite as exciting as some of the others, I think. And Lucid, this is another ghoul-centric one, but going the opposite direction this time. For weapons, it increases your damage up to a maximum of 40%, depending on how full your sanity meter is. For me, I think the snipers would potentially be more appealing, even though I am playing a Lucid Ghoul. But yeah, still, not bad. And for armor, it increases your damage resistance up to 6% total, depending on how full your sanity meter is. So, good, but not amazing. There are better choices, I think. So, the 2-star mods. Pickpocketers is very much a last choice, I think, for a melee build. But you have a 50% chance to gain a few caps when you get a kill. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. It does have a certain value to it, but it's not very exciting either. There are better choices out there. Maybe if there is nothing else that is actually useful to your specific build, I'd have to review the 2-star options again. But I suspect it's going to be a low priority pick, that one. Painkiller gives you HP regen based on a kill streak. Rushing gives you AP regen based on your kill streak. Elementalist gives you +5 to all resistances up to a maximum of 25%. Still not that high, really, so probably not a good pick. And Fierce only applies to armor, but not power armor, whereas the other armor mods will also apparently apply to power armor. Not that you need legendary power armor anyway. Fortify limb resistance while on a kill streak. Again, not bad, but not that exciting. New 3-star mods. So we have Glowing for a weapon, which again is good for ghouls, as kills will grant you a small amount of rads. Nice to have, definitely helps keep the rad meter topped up, especially as you'll be using your glow to power some of your attacks. But whether or not it's the best choice on the 3rd star, it might be for some. It's not a bad choice, but I think there probably are better ones. Healthy increases your max HP up to 100 for your armor. Reflex is also armor and increases your evasion chance up to a maximum of 10%. Actually, not bad at all, that one. Active increases your action point total up to 100. Also not terrible. Extra action points are nice, even if you're not using that, such for running around and things like that. And Barbarian, this one, again, especially if you are playing a Feral Ghoul build, I feel like is a small drop in a large bucket, to paraphrase a certain character from the show. +1 strength per kill while on a kill streak. Yeah, it's not bad. It does slightly increase the amount of one-hit kills you'll be getting, basically. But especially if you are a Feral Ghoul build, going into melee, you'll be getting a lot of one-hit kills anyway. So it's nice to have, but again, probably not quite as awesome as it seems. Yeah, I think weigh up your options a little bit on that one. Yeah, as mentioned before, there is a possibility things will change across the PTS. Or maybe even not make it to the live servers, they're saying here, but hopefully they will. So, the new public events, we'll blast through this quickly. Gearing Up is at Jackson Junkyard. If you want to help a Deathclaw prepare for its debut in an arena deathmatch, this is how you can do it. The Rust King needs a new Deathclaw, and you have to run around the junkyard, find a bunch of scrap metal to make armor for the Deathclaw. They are very cool, these armored Deathclaws. They're still not quite scary, but they're scarier than they used to be in the base game. A little bit more, anyway. Anyway, you run around, armor up the Deathclaw, and then help it finish its training by finishing off attackers in the area. It's a bit of a change of tone, it's quite good fun, and yeah, I'm looking forward to checking this out myself, but my hands-off impression of it thus far is that it's got a bit of a different flavour to most public events, so I'm looking forward to trying that one out. There's a new unique weapon which you can get in the area. I don't know if it's... Oh, it comes from this event called Stim Pike, which comes with the Medic's legendary effect installed. Now, Stim Pike, that's probably a melee weapon. I don't know, but it's a potential reward from the Gearing Up event. So yeah, lots of new rewards in the new area as well, as you'd expect. Sinkhole Solutions. Fires rage beneath the surface of burning springs and natural gas deposits occasionally breach the surface near places where the ground is broken. Willow, a resident of Highway Town, needs your help culling rad scorpions and stingwings that have gathered around a highly volatile sinkhole. These creatures are causing issues for the residents of Highway Town, so head over and wipe them out. Your objective is to destroy the rad scorpions and their nests while dodging pillars of fire and navigating a sandstorm. Also, there is a stick around to the end to learn why rad scorpions aren't an apex predator. So another tiny spoiler here. The final boss at the end of this that I have seen is an Agua, and I know I'm pronouncing that wrong. It's the big turtle monster, whatever. That's a bit weird. Or at least I thought it was a bit weird. I still think a giant rad scorpion queen would be horrible, but also a more appropriate boss. However, the implication here is that maybe the reason it is here is because it eats rad scorpions. Now, if it showed up to feed on a bunch of rad scorpions, that might make a bit of sense as to why that is the end boss for the event. But it would then have to attack the rad scorpions as well as the players, and I wonder if that's how that'll pan out. Anyway, moving on. We're going to kind of blast through this last bit, hopefully, because time is ticking along. Additional content. More fish. There are new fish and a new local legend in the Burning Springs region. So if you are a fisherman, there you go. Or fisher lady. There's a new side quest called Dirty Laundry, and this is a bit of a weird one. There are bugs with this at the moment, so hopefully they'll shake some of those kinks out by the time it hits the live servers. But all over the region of Burning Springs, there are little briefcases, intel stashes. They give you a little audio clue when you get close, but you do have to get really quite close, within like 10 feet or so. Abraxadine intel briefcases hidden all over the area. Return them to Bodhi in the city of Athens, way up north, to take part in the Dirty Laundry side quest. Yeah, I've got to admit, not sure about the name Bodhi choice, because Bodhi is a he, apparently. I haven't been there to check yet. But also, for me, I'm thinking Baldur's Gate 2, and at that point, I'm kind of accept no substitutes when it comes to that name, you know? If you know, you know. Baldur's Gate 2, amazing game. What, 25 years old now, but still bleeding excellent if you like CRPGs. Anyway, unlike other collectibles, these briefcases appear in specific locations once per player. You will have to search every nook and cranny to find all 150. Rumours suggest there's a 151st one hidden somewhere under a red truck. Maybe or maybe not. They wouldn't mention if it doesn't exist, so it's there somewhere. As you turn these cases in, you'll help Buddy unravel the mystery of his missing daughter and earn unique Abraxodine-themed rewards along the way. And the top-tier stuff is there is a unique legendary weapon for completing the quest, which requires finding about half of the total number of cases, so 75-ish. It says about, and 75 is right next to 76, so I'm guessing the number is 76 with the game and all. But if you manage to find all of them, presumably all 151, yeah, I'm guessing, then you will get a more powerful version of the legendary weapon, so it might actually be worth doing, hopefully. Be interesting anyway. So, closing Milepost Zero, we've got a couple of updates on this. They were not particularly clear in the showcase that I saw a couple of weeks ago on the exact ins and outs of this, but we now have some more details. So the caravans, in fact, will not be running in Burning Springs, which I think is kind of a pity, but it avoids the problems we've had thus far anyway. So this update closes Milepost Zero, and the vendors are actually not going to be sticking around from the look of it. Their stock will be distributed amongst vendors in Highway Town instead. So it looks like they are shuttering the whole feature, which is a bit sad. People are still wondering whether or not the location of Milepost Zero will be accessible and what's going to happen in there. There's no answer here to that, unfortunately, but yeah, I guess we'll find out. If I remember, maybe I'll check it out on stream if somebody reminds me, but we'll see. Anyway, Milepost Zero will be closing shop and moving their wares across to Highway Town, awaiting time in the future when things might be better for their operations. So they might try and redo something along this in the future, but for now, Milepost Zero is going away. So plans for the V63 laser carbine, which is spelled wrong, and mods are moving to the weapon vendor called Splint, who's up in Highway Town. Mac, another vendor, will have a bunch of rewards here that you can get. There's some good stuff. In fact, there's some other stuff that Mac sells as well. Looks interesting. I'm guessing it's new stuff, because it's not on this list. Snow globes from Milepost Zero vendors will now be sold by Windy in Highway Town. She's a bullion vendor. Spooky Scorched will be rewarding a couple of the outfits. Now, this is an unfortunate choice because the Spooky Scorched won't be back until, well, they'll be here for Halloween, but they then won't be back until next Halloween. So the Lady Hose and Hat outfit, Red Coat outfit and hat, and the Vault Girl and Boy backpacks will be coming from them instead, which may mean we've got a long wait before you get another bite at those, unless they're putting them into rotation early, which they might do, because the Spooky Scorched are back for the last 2 weeks of October, I believe, thereabouts. And the Holiday Scorched will reward all Skyline Valley specific snow globes, so those snow globes will be available over the Christmas period, which is not that I'm particularly bothered, but not great for me because I never get much done over Christmas. Anyway, I might have to try and change that. So, when Burning Springs releases in December, all players who completed the Bump in the Road Caravan intro quest will get the title Caravan Investor available, and players will be granted 2k gold bullion and a new pennant as well, so a couple of little bits and pieces that are not very exciting. So ultimately, yeah, this whole thing's going away, and the repeatable content that they are adding is kind of in some ways replacing that in the form of bounty hunting. Delivers the same promise of on-demand content. Yeah, I mean, it kind of does, but and it's more interesting, I've got to be honest. But at the same time, more and more and more is the way forward, not just swapping out, really. Still, the caravans don't work, so it is what it is. So there's a new camp pet coming, the Rad Hog. I'm guessing this will be coming via the seasons. Oh no, never mind. It will be purchasable in the Atomic Shop, although it's available for testing already, is the gist. Yeah, if you want a Rad Hog wandering around, they're quite cool. I don't think I'd bother personally getting it from the Atomic Shop, but, you know, this is what it is. If you want a big old mutated green pig walking around that looks kind of like a piggy version of a mutant hound, then, yeah, there you go. New seasonal weapon, the hand cannon. So I did wonder where we were getting this. I thought it might drop as a reward from the bounty hunting. Turns out it's coming from the season. This is the ghoul's own weapon. So, yeah, well, I'll do a separate little video on that fairly soon. We'll see how it goes. But it starts off as a sort of sawn-off rifle, really, and fires 50 cal rounds, which can be swapped out for 308 if you want to. It has an explosive and piercing effect, so anti-armor explosive, basically. You can turn it into a rifle if you prefer the rifle setup for it as well, which is cool. So a modifiable spin on the ghoul's own weapon. We're getting some additional options for the emote wheel, so there'll be more things you can add to it, and you'll have more emote options, which is not particularly exciting. There's stuff on the Gleaming Depths there, which I'm going to skip over because that shouldn't be in the game. I won't play it, and you shouldn't either. So there's a few changes to combat here. We can kind of blast through this as well. There is not as much as there has been for previous updates because they're going to let it settle, and it's now down to fine-tuning. Most of the changes they want to make have now been made. So that is always good. We've seen your feedback about VATS changes that arrived in the camp revamp update. I want to let you know that we're making some adjustments during this PTS. Not ready yet, but they'll be coming on down the line. So future update to the PTS. I'm not too well up on the VATS feedback because I don't use VATS, but there you go. Daily Ops. A couple of changes here. The Freezing Touch mutation should now deal cryo damage. That makes sense. It's annoying because it slows you down, but it's a thing. Decryption. This is an interesting change that on balance I think is probably the right one and a good change. They've removed the armor penetration effect from enemies in Decryption, but given them a damage buff. They are now higher levels than you would normally encounter, so it should be difficult and dangerous, but the really annoying effect of them completely bypassing all of your armor is no longer a thing. And as much as I'm in favour of some more challenging content, pretty much all of their efforts to do challenging content I don't approve of so far. And that does include the Decryption daily op. It's just annoying rather than challenging. Yeah, on balance, I think this is a good change. And it takes out an annoying thing and makes it a bit more in line with the way the rest of the game works without being irritating. So there's a few bug fixes here. Not massively exciting. You can read through them if you want. Yeah, not massively exciting, but some stuff here. Some fixes to legendary mods. The Stalker's mod now attaches to melee weapons as well. And the Miasma mod, which I assume is a 4-star. I don't deal with that crap, so anyway. Now deals poison damage to nearby targets similar to Plague Walker. Okay, which is a mutation. Speaking of mutations, Bird Bones now displays its 4 damage in the Pip-Boy. And fixed a bug where both Herbivore and Carnivore could be active at the same time. That's no longer the case. If you currently have both, they will both be removed from your character and you'll need to reacquire whichever one you want. So there's a few adjustments to perks here, which are small adjustments. I'll sit there and leave that on screen so you can have a read for yourself. But we've got Bullet Shield, 4-Leaf Clover, Fast Fighter, Life Giver, Night Eyes, which is have a reduced point cost. That's good. Approve of that one. Number Cruncher, Deal Sealer, United Ordeal, Rat Sponge, Good with Salt is being moved to Intelligence. It makes sense, don't like it, because Intelligence is already chock full of stuff and Luck has got less useful stuff in it overall, so there's more space for it. Same with Curator, same problem. Tightly Wound is being changed, and Bloody Mess, okay, well, will not apply to immune targets, so the Bloody Mess is being changed to be even less useful than it was. Which, after the last update, it makes it basically borderline worthless anyway. So, yeah. Fixes for power armors, fixes for the Secret Tomes of the Mothman quest, some fixes for a couple of weapons, some UI stuff as well, which is not very exciting. So, yeah. Let's just scroll back through these fixes down here so that if you want to pause them, you can. There we go. And there we go again. Okay, so this is a bit of a long one, but that's usually the way with Patch Notes videos. Yeah, some good stuff in here, some interesting details. I'm excited by the idea that Burning Springs will be an ongoing and developing storyline and world space as well. Hopefully they will continue to add to it. That's definitely cool. They have suggested that they will be revisiting Skyline Valley in future and reworking that area, because obviously with the removal of Milepost Zero, once you've completed the storyline down there, which it was a little unimpressive really anyway, the whole region is kind of done unless you happen to drop down there to do the public event or drop a nuke on it. There's some nice spots to build as well, but yeah, the whole region is relatively it's going to become quite the backwater going forward, shall we say, which already kind of was. So hopefully they'll be able to come back to that and actually do some cool stuff with it in future. But for now, it looks like the focus is going to be on the Burning Springs Ohio region. And having had a wander around it, I can say it is a more interesting area and it's better done. One of my issues with Skyline Valley in general was that the enemy spawn scatters across the area are way too dense, so you can't walk more than 10 feet without getting attacked by something. That was just annoying. It was too much. They have done a better job of distributing enemy attacks in Burning Springs. It's definitely better. There's still quite a lot of enemies scattered around and stuff, but yeah, the distribution is much better balanced. So on the whole, much cooler. Anyway, hope you guys found that useful and informative. There's some good bits of details in here, so yeah, I hope it's going to be helpful for you. We'll jump back into the PTS and have more of a poke around, look at some of the other features soon. More videos on specific features coming over the next little while as well, if you want to take a look at those. So like, subs, and notification bell if you want to make sure you get notified about all future uploads, and social media links in the description if you want actually reliable notifications about the uploads. And yeah, down below as well, we've got channel memberships if you want to support the channel directly. I massively, massively appreciate it. Huge thank yous to everyone who's done that already. But for now, also thank you very much for watching. I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.